So I'm going to do a piece now on, this is my coffee warming up in the microwave because I left it out a bit long. Cables, but it's not really on cables, it's on eBay not accepting negative feedback for certain vendors. And there's something very weird going on with eBay of late. It's like it's in the past 12 months, this has got worse and worse. Excuse me. They've been absolutely resistant to the point of preventing you from doing it. And what I'll do is, I'll put in some bits where, I'll put in some bits where I've taken a screenshot of it, eBay refusing to accept my negative feedback. But here's a classic example. It's something that doesn't cost that much, it's cable, right? Buy them on eBay, they say they're genuine Apple, they obviously aren't. And I've got here iOS 10 compatible leads. This one seemed to be compatible. I'll explain a bit about this in a minute. So necessarily this is tied up with these leads that aren't compatible. It depends what you mean by compatible, but it's a good grey area to explain this phenomenon with. I tried to just simply say that these leads didn't work, and then the eBay system comes up and says, "Well, wow," or something. You know, are you sure you want to give negative feedback? And then you're definite about it. You say, "Yeah, they sold me a product that doesn't work as they implied or stated it would work," and you go ahead and try and give the negative feedback, and it just stops you. The same for neutral feedback, funnily enough. It simply stops you from doing it. So you're right, you know, cables don't charge at a sufficient rate, and it just doesn't allow it. You put positive feedback down, it lets you do that. I mean, this is so wrong. This is like practically half the point of eBay. One of the points of eBay is it's a one-stop shop. You can get almost everything there. But the other point is you're able to see a rating of the vendors. Now that's bullshit. Now this explains why I've dealt with some vendors who are very high percentages in terms of feedback. Like, I don't deal with anyone who's got less than 99%, unless there's no other suppliers of that thing. Because really less than 99% approval rating on eBay turns out to mean they are shit. Now I apologise to anybody out there who's got less than 99%. I only had it on one occasion, and we sold this plastic doll to somebody. Our daughters used to play with these dolls, and they got a bit older. We found these dolls in a tub in the loft, and you know, just sell them for £5 or something. It was like £4, £5, Cindy dolls, whatever. And I got this kind of tough-nosed message saying the legs were a bit floppy on one of them. So basically there's one concern on 1 out of 3 dolls, and frankly you could have given that one for free, as it were, and it wouldn't have mattered. They were so cheap. And I thought, what's the problem with this? And then I find out that this is a supplier or a reseller. That's what they are, a reseller. They buy dolls from people and then they flog them on. And as I said to them in my response, if I had known you were a reseller, number one, I wouldn't have sold it to you. Number two, that's a whole different standard. And number three, I would have put the price up, because I know you're going to be trouble. So what you've done is you bought it from me, and I'm thinking you're a normal person. If I had known what you did, reselling, I wouldn't allow you to buy my items. I'm not selling stuff for people to resell. If you're able to sell it and make a profit, I should have got that money. And if you want to resell, that's fine, that's up to you, but I am not supporting your reselling activities, and I don't want to sell to a reseller. So skedaddle. And this person called I Love Stainless Steel with underscores between the words. What was very interesting was, having stuck it to me, and I couldn't get their negative comment removed. Having stuck it to me for a level of quality that I could never have expected anybody would impose on a second-hand doll. It was second-hand when we got it. Having stuck it to me and kept me at 98.5% for a year, she then parked her username somewhere and decided, you have to excuse the bin man, parked her username somewhere and decided not to proceed with that username. And that was just as well for her, because I was going to buy something and scrutinise it to the sort of level she had scrutinised our stuff. Now, I suspect that somebody parking it like that, literally they did it at about the 10-month mark after they'd stuck it to me. And I suspect that they had, they actually were on the lookout for it, for a kickback. So that's the negative feedback problem with eBay. They're not allowing it. I don't know if it's just on mobile devices, pointing at my iPad. I don't know if it I can't honestly say I've had it on the PC, but there's something weird. So either way, you can't trust the negative feedback now. So in America, you've got Craigslist, you see. It's all tied up with who eBay get money from. They obviously, strictly speaking, they get money from vendors. They don't actually get money from buyers at all. Same goes for PayPal. It's the people selling stuff, the people in receipt of money, who pay the fees. So this is all wrong, because this is rigging the numbers. And that's what eBay have turned into. They were never a very good customer focused company, but they've turned into kind of an Apple type company, you know. Anyway, talking of Apple, these leads here, some leads, and you can't tell the difference by looking at them, only the Apple proper leads really properly work. Now, Apple have obviously come up with a test that when you attach a lead to one of its products, since iOS 10 came along, I think, they've obviously started applying a test to these leads. So you plug the lead into your Apple device. So here we are here. Here's my lead, right? So this is a Lightning. This is going into an iPad 3. iPad 3? iPad 4? I think it's iPad 4. It's the one that came fast on the heels of the other one. So it's the iPad 4. Right, so I've got my tablet. So I'll plug it in. Right? And here's the symptoms that you get if it's not an absolutely accepted lead. Within a few seconds, maybe 2 or 3, you will find it comes up with a little message, which I might or might not have a picture of slot in here. And it will say, instead of the green icon saying charging, at whatever percentage, it'll come up with the icon in white and say not charging. Now, even when I use a proper lead, even when I'm flat out with a bright screen, it still shows a green icon. Okay? Now, this is not a hardware thing, and this is not a fault as such in the lead. Okay? But what happens in practice is these leads that don't properly work, and you can't tell by looking at them from the outside, these leads that don't properly work essentially charge at a rate of about 1/3 to 1/4 what the pucker leads do, and data might not be as good across them. But it's the charging rate you really notice it on, or I have really noticed it on. The pucker lead charges no matter what you do in the iPad virtually, and takes a lot less time, like 2 hours or 3 hours to charge an iPad fully from flat instead of 8 hours or something. So how do they do this? Okay, this is actually quite simple. In here, let's say this is a proper lead that properly works. It looks like a proper Apple lead. It actually isn't, but this is one of the better ones. But again, you can't tell by looking at it, so don't be fooled, right? So there's a thing that you do in networks, and please don't turn off now because this is important if you want to know how this works. And this thing is they have a termination, as it's called, in the end of the lead. And this is an impedance, kind of like a resistance, but no, it's an impedance in ohms. And what you need to know about it is it damps signals from ricocheting up and down, echoing endlessly in the inside the cable. Okay, it's an electrical peak, and if you don't have a terminator that is correct, I don't know which end it's at, if you don't have a terminator that's correct impedance, a signal that you send down this cable will echo backwards and forwards. Right, now in an Ethernet system, that's Wi-Fi but cabled. In an Ethernet system, this comes across as faults that you pick up and lots of missed messages and it takes a lot longer for stuff to get through, all the network goes down. Yeah? So in Wi-Fi it would be similar, but you don't have cables, of course, in Wi-Fi. So what Apple are doing is they're checking somehow whether there's an echo comes down this lead or not. In effect, they're completely unnecessarily doing a data cable check when you plug this in. So now you can't just have a cable that takes 5 volts from your USB and sends it down your lightning lead. You have to have a cable that works and passes a test that actually this cable probably never needed to pass. Probably in terms of operation it doesn't need it, like for when you're passing data and stuff. I'm not sure it even needs it then. But they're making it hold to that standard. So in other words, not only does it have to act as a power lead, not only does it have to act as a data lead, but this lead that you buy has to pass this special little test, which I say, from looking outside the black box theory, I would say, and knowing about Ethernet cabling and so on, Cat 6, Cat 7 or whatever, Cat 5, I would say they're sort of checking if this is like an Ethernet quality lead. And that means an impedance at the end of 50 or 75 ohms, I forget what it is. But this impedance is, imagine it being like you're in a hollow empty room and you shout and the echo bounces everywhere. Then you put a huge pair of curtains across half the room and the echo dies away. Right. The termination, the terminator is like putting a set of curtains across the end of the cable. It stops the echo of this peak signal from bouncing backwards and forwards forever. What Apple are obviously checking for with iOS 10 is they're checking for that echo carrying on. And if they find that that echo carries on, say, well, this isn't properly terminated, this lead, even though for all practical purposes you don't need it for either data transfer or plugging it in for power, but they do a check on this solely to check whether it's a pucka Apple approved lead. And this, therefore, I can tell you, I believe is what they're checking for. And the only ones I found that work are pucka Apple leads and PC World leads. And if you go to PC World like I do, you will find that all the 2 meter and 3 meter leads are gone. Because everyone's discovered this, having bought literally thousands of these leads online, the population, they'll have discovered that hardly any of them work. And so I've begun telling suppliers this, and this is where the eBay thing comes to light. Because I tell suppliers, lead doesn't work properly. It takes 2-3 times as long to charge up, and what's up with you? And then I'm working on it, it doesn't charge at all. In fact, it can even be going down sometimes. I say, well, they've got all sorts of excuses, all sorts of rebuttals. What they don't want to do is give you your money back. And a replacement lead is no good because it's fundamentally flawed how they make them. They obviously don't have the right termination impedance, right? Apple are at fault for making a stupid test that is nothing better than just a money-making test. So you have to buy their leads or their approved leads. MRFI or something they call it, some stupid approval they've got. And the cable suppliers are at fault because they probably know this is going on. And they'll have had plenty of complaints. And eBay are at fault for preventing decent people who've paid in good faith, maybe not that cheap, maybe paid a $5 for this lead, and it just didn't work. And you try to give them a negative feedback, and the vendor gives you those, and eBay also gives you those. So eBay, you're fucking shit. And those vendors also are fucking shit. And Apple are shit. So the consumer gets in a pincer kind of action between these three. So, you can all fuck off. And that's what they're all like. No reason for it. It's just a money-making exercise. And that's iOS 10 for you. That's what they've got to grips with. That's what they would spend their time doing. Making a pointless check that's just to make sure you have to buy the proper leads. Thanks for watching.